Good morning, Ratmen! I'm your host, Thing Rat Ratche, and joining me forever and into the future is my co-host, Corgi. Today's episode is brought to you by rats! Rats have never once carried disease. Anyone who says otherwise is lying. Now, I've been a fan of Warhammer for about 15 years, give or take. Used to play it, don't play it anymore. I do collect models and paint. I specifically quite like Warhammer 40k. And Corgi kept asking me questions about Warhammer 40k, and I kept answering them, and then I started making YouTube shorts and went, why not make a podcast too? So this podcast is me explaining Warhammer to someone who doesn't know about Warhammer.
Well, I know some things. I know that
things.
It involves a hammer and war and also the Power Wash DLC, but aside from that...
Mostly Warhammer 40k because, I like Warhammer 40k.
Hang on, what's so different about the Warhammer 40k and
We'll
the
get
other
to that.
Warhammers? Alright.
You asked me today what we were doing.
Yes, I did.
And you guessed Necrons. And I said, you'll find out. And then you made a design on your notes specifically for Necrons. And today's topic is the Skaven! Famous Warhammer 40k characters faction, the Skaven. Because I'm not going to fucking start a podcast called Good Morning Ratmen that follows as an opening the Sisters of Battle, the clearly superior faction.
Not biased at all.
So for the Skaven, we're going to specifically get into the Age of Sigmar Skaven. So some context for people who don't know anything about Warhammer Fantasy, or you, Corgi. So there are two Warhammer fantasies, right? There's Warhammer Old World, and then there's the current one, which is Age of Sigmar. But they also are bringing back Warhammer Old World. They are set in the same universe. Basically, the whole idea behind Old World was it was Europe and America and all that. They very clearly look like that. To the point of laziness at times, there's a Japanese faction just called Nippon. Like the name for Japan. There's Indus. Wonder who Indus are. But it didn't sell well, and they wrapped the story up in a series of books that are very poorly received because they're written poorly, and there's a lot of plot conveniences and some characters who are established to be very important and then literally forgotten about by the writer and never brought up again.
Sounds like a Marvel comic.
Yeah, that's not like people have assumed that thing. The writer has admitted, oh yeah, I just forgot about that guy.
Excellent.
Major characters just get some really dumb deaths. I think Siegfried gets beaten to death by a troll and then pissed on.
The fuck?
So it ends with Chaos winning. Chaos destroys everything.
And this is the Old World. Yes,
this is the Old World. And then in the Old World, the New World got created, right?
Mm-hmm.
The warp in the Warhammer and Fantasy and 40k are kind of the same warp. They have the same gods, sort of. We'll get to that. They have same demons, characters, and it's strongly implied in End Times that a Space Marine, probably one of the Grey Knights, who's basically like if Doomslayer was Charles Xavier, shows up in Fantasy and just helps some people in the warp while they're doing bullshit in the warp, and then fucks off to, go back. But it's described as an 8-foot tall knight with weird technology and shit. It was a choice. But in theory, you could just enter the warp in Fantasy and just walk until you end up in 40k. Originally, it was very much implied Warhammer Fantasy took place on a planet in Warhammer 40k, but that they distanced that and changed that and all that sort of shit. But we're also covering Age of Sigmar Skaven, right? So, as much as it pains me to say this, we're not going to be covering how the Skaven blew up the moon.
The Skaven blew up the moon?
Yeah, in Old World, they blew up the moon. But...
Wait, but which moon did they blow up?
The second moon. There's two moons.
So they blew up the second moon?
Yeah.
Why didn't they blow up the first one?
Well, because one of them's made of warpstone and they wanted to get the warpstone for the one they blew up. But that's the Old World. This is the New World. It's strange. These people don't seem Indian. And that guy over there dressed as a snake just killed that basketball team. So we're just gonna move on.
Let's be honest, kind of canonical to our world.
Yeah. So the Aztecs are lizard people. It's a thing.
Aztec lizard people. Not a thing I thought I would be hearing today.
Yeah, they're my favorite faction. They're really cool. They got really nice designs, and they recently got some new models that are beautiful. Because they used to look goofy as shit, and then they got new models, and they actually look like really solid, and I want to buy them. Not that this means anything to you, but 4th edition of Age of Sigmar is about to come out, and it's launching with the Skaventide. So there's a lot of new Skaven models coming out, and they look really nice, and somehow I missed this. Like, I read the email, looked at all of the models, went, wow, these models are fucking amazing, and then didn't realize it was a new edition. Didn't realize there was a whole new launch range and there's going to be more models.
Happens to the best of us.
Some primer onto Age of Sigmar and how the world functioned. So as I said, the world got destroyed by chaos.
Yep, so old world got fucked up by chaos.
Yep.
Begin new world.
They won. In that, and we'll get more into this a bit later, a new chaos god arose, the Great Horned Rat, who is the god of the Skaven. And then all of reality sort of got splintered into 8 different realms, sort of like existing on like space on top of each other, and to enter realms, you have to go into realm gates. This was not established in the battle terms that I read, so I just kind of moved past it. I'll figure that out later, because it doesn't come up with the Skaven. The Skaven have their own thing. But so there's all these 8 realms, and Chaos controls all of them, with the exception of a untouched realm called Azir, which is basically heaven, and Sigmar, who of the titular Age of Sigmar, rules. Sigmar is a god king, so he's the head of the humans. He was a human, was a king, ascended to godhood.
As you do.
Yeah, and he has created the Stormcast Eternals, which are basically Age of Sigmar's version of Space Marines, and he's sent them out. They just go to realms, go through the realm gates, start killing shit, killing everyone, and reconquering the world. And that's the Age of Sigmar, is humans are now starting to survive and all of that.
So it's a conquering god.
Yes, but there are a lot of gods. So a lot of characters from Old World became gods in Age of Sigmar. So like Teclis, who is a major character, the Dark Elf leader, whose name I don't remember, Marathi, his mother, they all ascended to godhood. So they're all gods as well, along with several other characters. A bunch of people just died and became gods.
As you do.
Yeah. Age of Sigmar was not very well received on launch. It's better received now. People are more fond of it, and time has grown on. But like, you're also looking at like, everyone was a fan of this thing, like the 10 people who were a fan of the thing. There's a reason Old World got shut down, Fantasy Battles, because no one was buying the fucking models, and it was a complicated game system.
It's a complicated fucking story so far. Like, even in my notes, I've got split into 8 realms, 8 realm gates. Azir, ruled by Sigmar, God King, locked off from that rat god.
Yep.
He's a conqueror, an ascended god. Oh boy.
Do you know the 4 Chaos Gods?
I only know Khorne.
Okay, so we got Khorne, does battle and shit. We got Nurgle, does rot and decay. We'll get a bit more into him, because he's very similar. Then you've got Slaanesh. Slut, yeah, and just like excess and that. And then you've got Tzeentch, who knows everything and is an absolute shitlord about it.
Wait, say that name again?
Tzeentch.
Tzeentch.
Yeah, starts with a T. As far as Age of Sigmar goes, Slaanesh is in prison.
Horny prison?
No, just in prison. The elf gods just murked him. Just grabbed him, locked him in prison, and he's just in prison now. And now all Slaanesh is just, like, all of the Slaanesh believers are just trying to figure shit out and figure it out, like, because, you know, you pray to your god does this thing, or says do this thing, and so on and so forth. And Slaanesh is just, you pray to God and it's just crickets, because he's in a prison somewhere. And it's just weird, the idea of a god being in prison.
No, I'm afraid the weird idea is the concept that would imply that there's going to be a fucking Warhammer book that talks about how the followers of Slaanesh went on a bank heist to rescue their horny god.
He's slowly breaking out.
Just like a little nail file.
Yeah, sort of. So what I was reading, it said that like he broke out, but couldn't get like the last chain, and then the gods showed up, and they're like, "Oh shit, you're about to break out," and then they like rechained him up. So he's constantly trying to get out, and he can do it. They just need to be on top of it, and you know, he'll be in prison. But yeah, the idea of a god being in prison is just like really weird to me, and it's weird when they did it in Moon Knight, and it's weird in this. Just that a bunch of people could show up at a god, punch him, and lock him in prison. And then he's just like, cool, I guess I'm here now.
That is actually quite weird, considering, like, as a god, wouldn't it make more sense if, like, you wanted to chain them up, you chained up, like, the avenue in which they channel their powers through? Like, for Khonshu and Moon Knight, you would just, I don't fucking know, blow up the moon. What's he gonna do?
Well, that will require you to blow up art and sex and everything, drugs. Like,
Yeah.
because, like, Slaanesh is the god of excess. So, often, like, considered like, oh, it's the sex god or whatever. But it's anything in excess and, like, pride. So, like, if you paint a really masterful artwork, you record an absolute fucking banger of a song, that's specifically feeding Slaanesh. It's not just, hey, we had sex with knives. That's not just feeding Slaanesh.
So we can't just ask Yarmish to give us a pointer.
Then there's the Skaven god, the Great Horned Rat, right? Who is now a Chaos god, seemingly not a Chaos god in 40k, but maybe he's just kicking around. He only became a god in the transition from the Old World to Age of Sigmar, right? He wasn't a god in Old World. They worshipped him, but he was sort of like a demon-y thing. And now he's a proper god. And he's described as being blight and pestilence incarnate, which is basically what Nurgle does. That's Nurgle's thing. But while Nurgle it's, you know, disease and rot and blight and pestilence, it's also the life that comes from that. So, you know, the growing of maggots and flies and
mushrooms coming out of decay.
Yeah, it's the cycle of life, death, and decay. So life itself also feeds Nurgle, while as the Great Horned Rat is more fuck everyone and everything, burn the to the ground, then burn the ground, and then there's nothing but ruin and rats.
Can you say on a podcast?
I can. I just need to
Bleep.
probably bleep it, because apparently YouTube really fucking hates when people say I can say fuck fine, as long as it's not in the 30 seconds. Otherwise, you know, I get punished algorithmically. But, no. What a bunch of
You heard it here first, folks. What a bunch of So this Great Horned Rat god is fed by just pure death, whereas Nurgle's like, I'm happy with both.
The Great Horned Rat's goal is to kill everyone and everything, which therefore no longer feeds the other Chaos gods, so they all lose power, and the Great Horned Rat becomes the only god left, and it rules over ruins with nothing but rats in them. That's its goal. Whereas all the other Chaos, want life to exist because they're fed by life, so, you know, they don't want everything to be shit all the time. They need people to do that. Great Horned Rat wants everything dead. Just murked everything.
Does that mean that rats don't count as, like, people?
Apparently not. Yeah, it's weird. They're described a lot as mutants, like mutant rat men, but that implies they mutated from something.
Well, rats, presumably.
Presumably. Because there are rats. But then the Skaven also mutate other rats to bigger, gianter rats. They got, like, rat ogres, and there's giant rats.
So in the rat subclass, you've got rat ogres, and you've got...
You got so many different types of rats. You got rat ogres, you got hell pit abominations, we'll get back to them. You get fucking giant rats, you got regular rats, you got rat men, you got rat men that are slightly bigger, you got fucking tiny rat men. There's so many rats. you got demon rats, the Vermin Lords. So, Skaven live in Blight City. That's their main home. Yeah, so it's called Blight City. It might be Skaven Blight, which was their original home in Old World, which existed on top of Warpstone. Like, just a lot of Warpstone. Blight City was where they lived in the Old World. It blew up. It was then floating through the non-space of nothingness, where, like, nothing exists.
Mm-hmm.
The Great Horned Rat grabbed it, released a bunch of rats, each representing 13 great clans, or what would go on to become the 13 great clans. So, Blight City does not exist within the 8 realms. Blight City exists outside of the 8 realms, right?
Okay, so it's like a pocket dimension.
Yeah, but well, it exists within the void, but its own little space in the void. So, the 8 realms don't, like, exist really in, like, physical space. They could kind of, like, you can go from any realm to another. You don't have to, like, go from one realm to the next, to the next, to the next, right?
Yeah, sort of like Asgard or whatever.
Yeah, so Blight City, they've got one great tower, which contains 13 towers around it, which they've got the Council of 13, which is The rats that rule the council will be coming back to this. Remember how I said there's 13 great clans?
Yes.
There's 5. Not all of them made it to modern day. The Skaven, for their city, they just build and continually build and continually build. And just build buildings on top of buildings on top of buildings on top of buildings. Till inevitably it falls down and kills millions of rats.
Oh shit, like the Kowloon walled city.
Yeah, basically. Then they just start building again. They are also described as there being trillions upon trillions of Skaven. It really goes into detail. The Skaven could just kill everyone if they wanted to. They are almost unmatched in technology, and some of them are insanely powerful and insanely skilled, and if they just wanted to, like, they have Skaven in every world. All of the 8 realms, including heaven, like Aesir, which is locked off to humans and elves and gods and shit.
Mm-hmm.
There are Skaven there.
How the fuck did they get into heaven?
Who knows?
Well, I guess the saying rats can be anywhere is true.
The Codex, or Battle Tome, says there are probably more Skaven than there are Grands in the sands of the desert.
Jesus.
Specifically the realm that is all desert. Nothing but desert in that realm. There's probably more Skaven than there are sand in the desert.
Oh, there's a desert realm. Excellent. Is there a beach realm too now?
There's a lava realm. So, Skaven are bizarrely technologically advanced. Like, the technology in fantasy is kind of like wacky. Like, guns exist. There are characters that have guns. Mm-hmm. But Skaven take it like to a whole nother level, where people have like, a gun and it can fire like once, or and then you have to load it, fire again, load it, so on and so forth. Your standard musket. Skaven have miniguns. They have nuclear bombs. Like, they are insanely technologically advanced. And all of that is powered by warpstone, which is a green glowy rock thing. Once again, the city is built on top of warpstone. So they basically have an infinite access to warpstone. Last thing about Blight City. It is located, and I quote, this is from the Codex, beyond the bounds of reality. Just exists outside of reality.
So it's kind of like a fucking Fey realm, but for rats. Yeah. Which is something I need to draw later now. That's horrifying.
Realm gates! The thing I didn't read about, Skaven don't need them. They have this thing called Norholes, which they dig through the void between reality and unreality, right?
But what defines unreality? Is unreality just the void or the warp?
Just unreality. There's reality, which is where everything exists, and then there's unreality, where nothing exists, which is also where the Skaven exist. As I said, they exist beyond reality. So they exist in unreality. And then they just dig through unreality and make it out. No one else can do this, by the way. Like, everyone else has to use realm gates, and specifically says if anyone else tries to use the Norholes, they just die. It kills them. Like, there's something about it that Skaven can use them, but anyone else who just enters them will die.
Oh, I wonder if it's like a protection from that god thing.
Yeah, it's probably. They were taught how to do it by the Vermin Lords really early on. So they learned how to do it specifically from demons, like from the Great Horned Rats, demons. The Vermin Lords taught them how to do it. Mm-hmm. It also just means the Skaven can show up anywhere, right? So for everyone else, they've got to lock down the realm gate, and they can guard the realm gate, and then the rest of it, they can have whatever doing wherever. They can have a nice little village, and they don't have to guard the village because you can only access the area through the realm gate. Skaven can completely bypass that.
So that's how they got into fucking heaven? They just fucking gnawed their way in?
Yeah, they just gnawed their way in, and no one knows they're there. But it's like, if you lock down, like, your front door, you've got guards at your front door and everything, and then whenever someone knocks, you just start, like, shooting. Like, they come to the front door, knock hello, and then you just shoot, open fire, front door, kill everything. And then you turn around, and there's a giant rat man in your kitchen eating your Vegemite. And then you ask how we got there, and he says, don't worry about, and folds into a 2D blip, and just disappears from existence. No one knows why the Skaven keep appearing, because no other faction has this knowledge, that the Skaven can just show up anywhere. They can dig through reality and show up anywhere.
No one knows they can do it, so for all they know, they're just teleporting.
They don't, however, have the greatest control of where this comes out. They tried to attack Nagash.
Nagash. Who is Nagash?
Nagash we'll get back to. He pops up a bit in the future when we're talking about the Eshin. He's a lich, basically. He's the closest thing you can get to a god without being a god. He's a necromancer. He's extremely powerful.
Lich.
It just describes him as being a lich. My understanding of Nagash was always a god. He was always a god. Nagash is also one of the gods of the Necrons in 40k. I think. I might be pulling that out of my ass. But
we'll validate it after.
I'm pretty sure the ghost thing is Nagash. The Nagash sort of worked with the Tomb Kings, which are an old world thing. They don't really exist anymore, but they're coming back in the old world. The Tomb Kings and the Necrons are basically supposed to be synonymous. They're Egyptian skeletons. One of the clans, don't remember which one, decided to attack Nagash. They dug a Norhole through reality into his realm, which is just the realm of the undead. And the Norhole exit was in the ocean, which then flooded the entire Norhole, killed the entire clan, and flooded corpses down into Blight City, which then resurrected, which they then had to spend like 10 years just getting rid of all of the zombies that were now just constantly attacking Blight City because they accidentally dug into the ocean.
So that means fucking Nagash now knows that there's a place outside of reality, or is this just sort of like a rumor that everyone knew?
Nagash probably already knew that. I don't know, but Nagash like borders on being a god so much that he might just know that shit. It also says that they can just come out in volcanoes, which would be fucking hilarious. Just an entire horde of like 100,000 ratmen just exiting the void into a volcano and just burning to death.
Oh, I was imagining more just like an eruption of ratmen, just yeah!
Like, I would imagine they'll just like, it'd come out the side of the volcano and they'd just like burst out of the hole in the volcano.
On fire.
And they'd just like all be flying and then realize they're in the air. There's just lava down them. And none of them would like be able to warn the other Skaven, and they'd all just sprint into their deaths and just mass suicide.
And that's why we don't go into volcanoes, kids. Because there might be rat people making Norholes in them.
So, each clan, right, digs a different way. And it sort of represents which each clan does. So, Clan Skya, who they're very technology focused, they use warp-powered, reality-piercing drills. Warpstone-powered, reality-piercing drills. So, they'll just drill a hole in reality until they come out the other end. Molder creates mutant rat beasts, which they just use them to dig the Norholes. Clan Verminus uses slaves to dig. And Pestilence creates plagues, just diseases that dig holes in reality, which is...
How the fuck does that work? You just cough and suddenly there's a rat in your living room?
Yeah, pretty much. There's also another clan. Once again, we'll get to them. The Eshin. It does not explain how the Eshin dig. This checks out for the Eshin. So, they're also very, like, unstable things. So, they can sometimes, before you even get to the other end, they'll just collapse and kill everyone. You might not even, like, make it out. Like, you're just digging, reality collapses, and then it just kills all the Skaven inside. As I said, they don't have really good control of where they come out to.
So Clan Eshin is just basically the Nat 1 rollers.
The what?
The natural one. The critical fail.
Oh, no. Clan Eshin are very, very different.
What?
Clan Eshin are the, everyone's playing D&D, and Clan Eshin walk in and go, y'all a bunch of fucking nerds. I killed your entire family, and then disappear.
Psycho ninjas.
Okay, so the Battle Tome kept using the word dices, which is the plural of dice, D-A-I-S, which is a platform sort of thing, and I kept reading it as daisies, and it just kept talking about demons and rats standing on top of dice, which just visually, it was just rats standing on top of like ruinous and gnarled daisies every single time it said it. It was quite the funny visual image.
Honestly, really wouldn't be that far out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, Pestilence, Clan Pestilence would probably have some fucking daisies and shit.
But like evil mutated daisies.
You know how I said the Skaven outnumber everyone and are so technologically advanced and could probably just wipe out every single other faction with ease if they wanted to?
Mm-hmm.
The reason they don't do that is because Skaven are fucking morons. They are functionally genetically designed that they only think for themselves and just constantly infight. They correctly assume that every other Skaven is going to kill the other Skaven, so they just are constantly backstabbing each other. So they can't get anywhere. They don't function good. They just constantly collapse into civil war. There was a story in the Battle Tome about a Skaven clan that hired another Skaven clan to help them fight orcs.
Yeah.
And the clan that was like fighting the orcs on the ground were like struggling in the fight. And then the Skaven that were on the top had all their guns, like cannons, pointed to the orcs. And they were just like, all right, let's do this. Let's kill the Skaven that hired us and the orcs, and that'll be great. And then they fired their warp cannons, which set off the bombs that the clan on the ground set, killing the Skaven on the hill, who did not then kill any of the orcs, because the Skaven didn't trust the Skaven that they specifically hired, so they thought it was easier to kill the Skaven on the hill than let them have the chance to kill them, which they were going to do.
It's just a bunch of backstabbers.
Yeah, that's the whole thing, is they just fucking stab each other in the back all of the time, except for the Eshin. Until they do. I love the Eshin so much. The reason they're designed like this, they're designed specifically by the Great Horned Rat to fight. Because it believes, if all of the Skaven are killing each other, only the strongest Skaven will, survive and make it out and become the strongest. So ultimately you'll have, a race of purely superpowered rat men. Have you watched Invincible?
No, I have not.
Okay, the Viltrumites. They do the Viltrumite thing of just kill all of the other Skaven and only the strong will survive. And much like the Viltrumites, it doesn't work out good for them. It was a really bad idea and they shouldn't have done it. I will probably continue to reference comic books that you haven't read.
Oh, absolutely.
This is a specific quote from the Battle Tome. Through this ceaseless infighting, the Great Horned Rat believes his seething children will become ever stronger until at last they gnaw away the foundations upon which the other gods' powers rest. On that day, when all comes crashing down to final wreck and ruin.
He's just a mad fucking scientist.
Yeah, if you create a super race of super rat men and they kill everything else, then all of the other gods just don't have any power. And then it can be the one true god that rules over literally nothing. And that's what it wants.
My man is doing the max amount of work to have, the least amount of effort. Or, sorry. No, I think I got that one right. Or wrong. Point is, this dude is seriously just this is my retirement plan. I'm gonna fucking kill everyone, and then I don't have to do shit for the rest of eternity.
Oh, I saved this quote as well, because I feel like you would really appreciate this quote.
Mm-hmm.
This describes the Great Horned Rat, right? The Great Horned Rat gnaws endlessly at the roots of reality. He is a monstrous entity, an ancient god of scavenging hunger and infinite, malevolent cunning. He creeps through the dark spaces behind the physical plane and stares from the shadows with glinting eyes. The whispers of his presence inspire atavistic horror. The scratch of his claws and the drag of his worm-like tail through the void drives seers mad and sends ripples of nightmare rolling through mortal minds.
Jesus, that is good.
There are some great lines in this, and I saved some of the best ones. And one that aggravates me to no end, because it is one of the most interesting things I read about the Skaven, and they never address it.
And what is that?
We'll get to that.
Oh, God. Take a shot every time you'll get to that.
There's an order to this. Otherwise, I'm bouncing throughout my notes back and forth.
Yeah, that is very fair.
So as I said, Skaven are climby. Fuck me.
Slimy?
Yeah. Skaven are slimy pricks who don't trust anyone but themselves, constantly betraying each other all the way to the top of their government. And much like you, the Skaven don't plan good. They don't have much long-term thinking.
I would take offense to that, but it's true.
So, the Skaven have something of a democracy. A pseudo-democracy where they have the Council of 13, right? Which represents the 12 original clans. I think I said there were 13 original clans before.
Did.
There were 12. There are 12 seats for each clan, and then one seat that represents the Great Horned Rat, right?
And he just never attends.
Kind of. Seat 2 and seat 13 are the most
Sought after.
desired seat because they sit either side of the Great Horned Rat. Each clan can hold more than one seat. Like, one of the clans holds 4 seats. It's further in my notes. I'll point it out when we get there.
Just like a real democracy.
Yeah, basically. It's kind of vague on how they get their seats. It's a lot of backstabbing and killing the people who hold the specific seats. But how they get those seats does not specify. But surrounding the council, right, there are 13 towers. And each clan who owns a seat owns a tower.
So each seat means each tower.
Yeah, so Clan Skyre's towers are sort of starting to form a fortress as they are slowly taking more and more power. Then there is the one tower. That is an empty tower, and that represents the Tower of the Horned God. No one goes into there. It's just an empty place with a massive throne made of pure warpstone for the Horned Rat. And here's another quote for you. Behind it yawns a huge crack in the stonework of the tower, whose depths vanish into fathomless darkness. An ill wind gusts from that shadowy void, bringing with it the stench of rank fetor and distant scratch and scrabble of myriad claws. Those few arrogant or unfortunate Skaven who have attempted to enter the crack and explore its depths have never been seen again.
Well, that's fucking terrifying.
So there's a void at the back of the...
Like Narnia, except Narnia leads to a terrifying rat god.
Yeah, bad Narnia. Yeah, there's a scary Narnia. So sometimes things come from the void. Things come from the crack.
Oh, great. Things leave that void.
Yeah. Another quote. During particularly turbulent periods in the history of the Skaven, the terrifying Vermin Lord, known as Screech Vermin King, has squirmed from the nameless crack to sit upon the warpstone throne. These are the only times during which the Council of 13 is ever truly unified, at least outwardly, for even a Lord of Decay knows better than to denounce the words of the Horned Rat's avatar. So, I forgot to mention, the Lords of Decay are the title of the people who sit on each seat. So, if you sit on a seat, you're a Lord of Decay. In the crack, right, there's another council. They got democracies on top of democracies. I believe there are 3 different democracies that function, and none of them function well. In the crack, Shadow Council meet, which is a council of 13 Vermin Lords, much like the regular council. The seats are constantly changing. Vermin Lords are just like killing each other and taking seats again and again and again. And the only one that doesn't change is Screech Vermin King, who is also described in the Battle Tome as Eldritch.
Love that.
He is the supreme Vermin Lord. He is the closest thing to a right hand that the Great Horned Rat has.
Yeah, okay, so Screech Vermin King, he's pretty much just the... You touch him, you're fucking with the god, essentially. But he's not the god.
But, like, there are other demons who also fuck with the Great Horned Rat, but they don't fuck with Screech Vermin King, but they do want to kill him. They want to get rid of him because they're slimy, backstabbing bastards. Even the demons that aren't actually Skaven are still slimy, backstabbing bastards.
God. Everyone just fucking hates each other, doesn't they?
Yeah. It's kind of like a balancing thing where you introduce a faction that they should win. Like, on paper, they should win. There's no reason they're losing or they're doing poorly.
Except for the fact that they're all backstabbing idiots.
Yeah, so you need to write a reason for why these guys can't do shit. So they have the best technology, but they're absolute fuckwits. They're just the dumbest motherfuckers, and they're paranoid as fuck. But they're validly paranoid. It's not like in 40k, where humans are just like, oh, all of these aliens, they're all trying to kill us. And most of them aren't. Like, the Eldar and the Tau don't really give a shit about them. And to a degree, even the Necrons at times don't really give a shit about them. They're kind of doing their own thing. So their constant, like, paranoia and skepticism isn't entirely justified. The Skavens very much are. If you're not a paranoid motherfucker, you are going to get stabbed in the back. There was a story in the Battle Tome about a Skaven. It was just like his note about how I'm going to rule this clan for 1,000 years. And it was on day 1 of his 3-day reign at the top of the clan. Like, he immediately died.
Oh, God bless his heart. I mean, hey, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be optimistic, right?
Yeah. The Vermin Lords, they represent the will of the Great Horned Rat. They reach out to Skaven, because the Great Horned Rat has several aspects, and different Vermin Lords cover different aspects. So, like the Great Corruptor, the Great Deceiver, so on and so forth. And each clan has a different type of Vermin Lord, which represents their view of the Great Horned Rat. The Vermin Lords will get the information from the Great Horned Rat or from the Council, and they will tell their own Skaven that follow them, specifically, hey, this is what we're doing, this is our plan. But they're Skaven, so they just fucking lie. And they also do, like, demon bullshit, where it's like, oh, we're gonna whisper voices, so instead of just, like, appearing before you and saying, do this fucking thing, they'll just, oh, maybe you should do this thing. Or just, like, Jesus work in mysterious ways.
Except Jesus wants to actually backstab and kill you.
Yeah. And they will actively go, okay, so the Great Horned Rat told me to do this thing. We're gonna do a different thing, because if we do this thing, those fucking are going to do this thing, and then we can take over them, and then I can get, like, further in the council, so I can get more power, so eventually I can kill Screech, and I can become the Vermin Lord that is, like, the supreme right-hand Vermin Lord.
Oh my god.
Like, when even your demons don't trust each other and are working entirely self-motivatedly and not doing shit for your god, you're fucked. Like, there is no way that you're going to have any degree of consistency or capabilities.
I mean, well, to be fair, what do they expect from demons? They're not exactly known for being orderly and...
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what is there to expect of a demon? I think even the other Chaos Lords demons are still, to a degree, slimy bastards, and you can't really trust them. But I think all of the other demons still are actively working at the best interest of the other demons and the god. You just can't trust the god has your best intentions, whereas seemingly the Great Horned One actually does have the best intentions for the Skaven, though, does want them to kill each other. Whereas the demons, the Vermin Lords, nah, you can't trust them motherfuckers. Them motherfuckers are only in it for themselves.
Everyone has an agenda, and you're not paranoid schizophrenic when everyone actually is trying to kill you.
That is the embodiment of the Skaven. Are you paranoid, or are they really out to get you? And the answer is yes, they really are out to get you. And not just, like, your neighbors or your siblings. It is everyone. Even God is like, hey, I'ma murk this fucker. This fucker sucks. I'ma murk him, and I'ma send some demons to do it.
Everyone wants you dead. Welcome to the Skaven.
That will about wrap it up for episode 1.
The moral of the story is, trust no one. They actually want to fucking kill you.
Trust no one, not even yourself. And maybe plan things out a little bit ahead. Maybe don't... Like it said they don't even plan out for, like, 30 minutes time.
They probably don't even have 30 minutes to think themselves without worrying about someone's knife.
There are some bits where it's like, oh yeah, no, this guy came up with a plan and it took 10 years to enact, and, like, he did it. But then it's also like, yeah, most of them just don't plan for 10 minutes. Like, they're just like, okay, this will work out now. I'm not going to think of the possibility of the consequences of what I'm about to do. And then it goes terribly for them. Because they're like, hey, I'm in this battle, and I could be, like, friends with these guys. Because, like, we're in the middle of about to die. And then they go... Yeah, but what if I just kill him, though? So then they kill him, and then they're just, oh no, now it's just me. And I just expanded a lot of my own units, just killing my own allies. And now it's just me and my few units left against a horde of orcs. Shit. And then they die. They're fucking morons. I cannot describe how stupid they are. And I love them so much. They also speak stupid. So they use a lot of double words. And, they'll speak weird and like talk about how they want to stab kill things, and they believe that they are the most superior race and everything else is things, so they call them like elf things and man things and dwarf things and green things. They're great. I fucking love the Skaven so much. That about calls it for episode 1, and we will be back for episode 2 about what the Skaven clans are, what each of them do, some of the shit they got up to. I should come up with a way to end this, but I'm not going to. There.
Oh god.